Welcome everyone to Transformation with Martine. I am so emotional. I did not expect this to come on me. The music and the passion and the power I feel. Whoa. This show is all about transformation and overcoming everything, compromising nothing. And I am so grateful to be here. Wow. Dr. Pat, thank you for being here with me. She is my guest and my co-host today, and she is the founder and owner of Transformational Talk Radio. Wow, where's this coming from?
Well, so let me jump in for a minute. There are these moments of gratitude that happen in our lives, and we get them. And we get them in different ways. Sometimes we get them and it's not an emotional thing. Like the gratitude I had this morning when I was able to put my weed trimmer together after doing it wrong 5 times.
Right.
And you get that moment where you're like, okay. But then there are moments when we reflect back on our lives. And we had a moment like that last night in a show, and where you have people call in and you realize that stepping forward is our job. It's what we've been called to do. Martine, it's what you've been called to do.
100%.
But at the same time, there's a powerful story underneath that. There's a powerful story you have. And something happens when we stop talking about what we're going to do and then do it. And that's the emotional moment I think you're having.
It is. I was like, as I told you when we were just talking before, like I thought, oh, we should just come in with our most embarrassing moments. And that's like the furthest thing from my mind right now, even though it's a great icebreaker. I am not someone who usually comes to emotion real quick. And actually, most of the people that know me know that it takes a lot for me to get here, because it was either when I was a young person told, don't cry, or I was trying to stop emotion from, say, one of my daughter's kindergarten graduation, like, oh, I don't want to be the embarrassing mama who's bawling all over the place. So I kind of shut off my emotion. And last year it started coming back to me. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it's happening now.
I think that the emotions that show up for us in times like this is emotions that are, one, acknowledge, that we're on our path, but also are deeply grateful for how this series of events just occurred to get us here.
No doubt.
The series of events about who we are. And I was talking with Jessica yesterday. You know Jessica, right?
Oh, I love Jessica. Yeah.
I was talking with Jess yesterday, and we're talking about what is the best approach that we could have moving forward in mentoring all of you.
Wonderful.
To step that up a little bit. It's not that we don't mentor, but the reason that it's so important to us is because I've had many embarrassing moments in my career because I didn't even know what I don't know.
Right, exactly.
And I didn't understand about something that broadcasting calls formatics. And nor was I understanding what to do to change it. I just knew that what I was doing was so important to me that it felt like breathing. So these journeys don't come without overcoming obstacles. No, and I can't tell you how many people's names I've mispronounced, how many times I've attempted to learn technology and had to jump in and try to operate a board. And Jessica talking to me about signal flow and pulling out a cable cord and then not remembering where it goes. And as a result of that, we don't do this anymore, I don't think. But as a result of that, Jessica labeled all the cables for me, like, don't touch this.
We love her.
We love her. And yet at the same time, we have a journey and a story. You can't be where you are in the world helping other people if you haven't gone to many of the places they've gone.
Exactly. And we can't serve if we have not been there. Like a lot of times, we talk about in my community, I can't ask people to coach with me if I don't have a coach. I can't take people to places I haven't gone. If I'm
Right.
not willing to swim in the depths of the ocean myself into my own trauma and pain, then I surely can't or have no business taking someone else there.
And, let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute because,
Mm.
it's not every show that I do that I get on and I talk about my own journey. I've done a couple of
Mhm.
shows where I've talked a little bit about, my past and my history and,
Right.
what that's like. Um, but there are some challenges in our lives that enable
Mhm.
us to really step
Mhm.
forward and say, yeah, this is transformation with Martine,
Mhm.
or this is the Dr. Pat show, or
Right.
this is something else. You all listening, fill in the dots.
Mhm.
When you step forward in your life, and it doesn't matter what it is, many of the women that I work with now, they are in the middle of taking care of every single moving part in the family.
Oh yeah.
And, it is something that is so unexpected because they thought they had their life in order.
Mhm.
They thought they covered everything.
Right.
Even the people with resources thought, man, I got the nanny here, I got the grandma
Mhm.
there. Even with
Mhm.
that, they thought they had it covered.
Right.
So let's talk about from your perspective.
Mm.
You and I are here because we've established a sense of resilience.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
challenges, what obstacles did you have to overcome to bring you here today to be that coach of other people?
Hmm. Where would I start? What comes to my mind, I think, at a very young age, I had to, I don't know, kind of grow up and put the big girl pants on,
Mm,
and I think it started out even just being innocent, and my mom just being like, she wanted so much to be a mom of a girl. She had had two boys in a previous marriage, wanted to be a mom of a girl, loved dressing me up all cute and all this, and um I was like proud of her taking my hand, and I trusted her, my parents, completely. And then going to a friend's house and having, my mom visit with friends, my dad visit with the friends, and then having the older gentleman take me for a walk and take my innocence in that walk,
mm,
and feeling powerless, and coming home and sharing with my parents. And I remember my dad just bracing himself inside the door frame when I was telling the story, and in my innocence saying something like, can a man touching me make me pregnant or something? Even at 4 years old, I don't know how that came about, thinking that. And just seeing him bracing himself and my mom, and nothing ever came about it. And I found out later that the reason they didn't do anything was the Catholic priest told him not to, because the wife of the person who hurt me, they didn't want her to live with the fact that she was married to a monster and he was dying.
yeah,
I felt like, well, gosh, what about me?
yeah,
You know? And that seemed to lead me on a journey from there, that I
yeah,
want to do something for other people, other women that have been taken advantage of, that it wasn't their fault. They were just bright, happy little girls or boys, and it was taken from them. And I want them to know that it was never their fault. Their
yeah.
light was just too bright of whoever was around them that took that from them. And that was like the part of my journey. And I was afraid to do anything until I was diagnosed with cancer in 2014. I had just lost my mom to dementia 2 months prior. And when I got this diagnosis, I kind of tuned out, let my husband take care of the details. But it was the very next morning, I'm like, you know what? All my life, I have been groomed for this. And now God or the universe had to just
Yeah,
kick my butt
yeah,
and say, now's the time.
yeah,
And it's now or it's never. Get your
yeah.
butt in gear.
And this is what I love about this because we're going to talk about this when we come back from break.
Okay.
One of the things that I never thought about is because we don't often go back and reflect, and that's a beautiful story that you shared. And I love the way you talked about it,
Mhm.
and how you wonder as a young child, is anybody going to stand up for me?
Right.
you know where are my protectors? Do I have to create my own army of Avengers to
Right.
stand up for me as a child?
Yeah.
And often you hear folks talk about us as those people that were victimized.
Right.
But what we don't share that often is that story and what we learn from it
Mm-hmm.
and what the journey is about to get from there to where we are today. And it isn't it interesting? There's so many women that I know that have different stories,
Right.
but overcoming stories and are
Exactly.
out in the world. When we
Yes.
come back, we're going to talk about overcoming. We're
Mm.
going to talk about what that means. And are there warriors that have stood up for us in our lives?
Oh, yes.
Who are those people? And what did we learn from them? Transformation with
Perfect.
Martine. This is such a great show. When we come back, get ready for that and much more, everybody. We'll be right back.
Mm. Before we actually go any further here, I'd like to give you my website, which is www.martineemmons.com or Martine Emmons. It sounds easier to say Martine Emmons, and I go by either one, by the way. MartineEmmons.com. So we are returning, talking about obstacles and overcoming. And Dr. Pat, did you want to share
Yeah,
a
I
little bit
think both
about
of us have
overcoming?
said yes to
Mhm.
doing that. That's been, you
Yes.
people who see me and they know me, of course, as what I do with the network, but I also coach women. I coach women in various points of their lives. I
Yes.
don't do it as much as I've done before because when I coach somebody, it's a full long year commitment with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
really a transformational coaching. It's really here's where you are and here's where you want to go and what do we need to do to get there.
Right.
But what I've learned doesn't come from certificates. It comes from the heroes and the warriors in my life, and everybody's got them, right?
We
Martine, do you
do.
have some?
We do. Oh my goodness. Yes. Um, I started out with some therapy, but it really wasn't until coaching, till I got into coaching. And I had a couple coaches that I started with, but the coaches that have helped me the most, and I don't think they'll mind me saying, is Michelle Moore and Sean Smith and Lisa Nichols.
Mm,
They have been absolute mentors in my life. They have taken me from those points where, especially Michelle, I will just reach out to her sometime and say, you know what, I need you to tell me I'm okay.
yeah,
I need you to tell me I'm doing good.
yeah,
And they always do that. I believe we need that. I don't
yeah.
think that we can, I don't think we could do it alone. I
No.
really don't. I know some people do. I don't think until you're in this in a point where the pain is greater than staying stuck that you really realize I need somebody to get me from A to B.
Hmm. I
How
had a
do you?
mentor that said that to me once. He said to me, Pat, here's where you are. He said, you're at this place like many people who don't realize they're at this place. You're going to change when the pain of
Mhm.
staying the same is worse than the pain of change.
That's
That's
it.
when you're going to change. When the
That's it.
pain of staying the same
Mm-hmm.
is
100%.
worse in your mind, in your heart,
Yep.
you're going to reach out and change. And,
Mm-hmm.
I learned that lesson. And, today I hope that I don't have to get to that place. I hope I don't have to get to the point where the pain of staying the way I am is so
Mm-hmm.
bad that I hit the rock bottom. But the
Right.
warriors you mentioned, these
Mm-hmm.
people, they are so important. They become role models. And
Mm-hmm.
so then, therefore, we have to become role models.
We
I
do.
talked about this yesterday about Ellen DeGeneres.
Uh-huh.
I was very struck by the fact that she took a beating, and
Mm-hmm.
she took a
She
beating
did.
that didn't make sense to many people. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't make sense to anybody that was ever a guest on her show. They had never experienced what
Right.
the tabloids were saying,
Mm-hmm.
but it almost brought Ellen to her knees. And she talked about it yesterday. And she talked about how painful it was, 4 months of brutal
Mm-hmm.
battering. And she finally called it what it was. She called it an orchestra of misogyny. She
Mm,
called it out.
right,
Now she is
right.
going to do one more season, but she also talked in the interview about her therapist,
Mm-hmm.
openly about her therapist. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we need, as women,
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for men,
Mm-hmm.
we need to ask and talk about the fact that we get outside help, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
therapist or a coach
Mm-hmm.
or a mentor or a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual teacher, leader. You know, this is so important to us.
It is so important. And you know how they say that you got to surround yourself with people that are going places, people
Yep.
that are going to empower you, encourage you. And I don't know about you, but I know the other day, and I'm kind of struggling with my dad right now. He has COVID, and his mental status
Wow.
is gone down.
Wow.
And the other day, I didn't really know what to do with myself. And as you know, I'm a nature lover. I love to go walking along. If I can have the ocean like you, that's better. But I do have lakes around me. And I just went walking around the lake, and I just admitted to the lake the other day that I'm not okay. And I hurt and I don't know what to do. And sometimes I think we also just need to admit that instead of like, oh, I'm okay. I can keep going. It's okay. Sometimes we have to admit that we're not.
And we're afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and we're afraid. Literally, I mean, look, when our bodies break down,
Mm-hmm.
we then get to that place. But how bad does it have to get before we say, yeah, I'm going to go get help, or I'm going to go see a doctor, or I'm
Exactly.
going to go see a naturopath, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. How
Mm-hmm.
bad does it get before we
Right.
say, if I just went to somebody for help, I might get some relief?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
that's a pathway that is so personal, individual. You and I can look out, we can look at folks
Right.
from the outside
Mm-hmm.
because of our own personal journey. And we know that if you just made a phone call,
Right.
you might get some help. I work
Mm-hmm.
with women in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And in my own journey, I will tell you, I've worked with more women. And the hardest thing to do or realize is one phone call. It's just one phone call that will
Exactly.
stop you from
Mm-hmm.
taking that drink or calling your dealer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Right.
one phone call. And yet it is the hardest phone call in the world to make. And
It
I don't take
is.
that lightly for people.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Even sometimes it's just, like I said, just even admitting it or just reaching out, even a friend, like, can you please just, can you spend a little time with me?
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
yeah. And by the way, Zoom calls are time with people.
they
So
are.
for those people are
They
thinking,
are.
we're
Mm-hmm.
not spending time. Zoom calls,
Yep. Yep.
I have a couple of friends, 4 o'clock religiously, boom, zooming it, whatever. They
Yep.
have appetizers. It's almost like they have their own party. And
Exactly.
yet, how do we build resilience? How do
Mm-hmm.
we create that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, somewhere along the line, you had a witness, you had a warrior, you faced your childhood. I faced my
Yes.
childhood.
Mm-hmm.
My warrior was my stepmom because she was there. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that. And then she became my mom. And
Mm-hmm.
I got disciplined, honey. I got to tell you, I got disciplined from that woman that you have never seen before. But without it,
Right.
I'm totally I was a train wreck anyway in my 20s. But
Mm-hmm.
without having any sense of right or wrong, I know I wouldn't be on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I owe that to her. And I owe that to
Mm-hmm.
Linda's mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
because I was like the movie, a train wreck.
Gotcha. I hear you. I hear you. I was one of those people that just kind of just kept going and taking care of everybody else, because I figure
Wow.
if I take care of everybody else, I'll be fine. Whether it was taking care of my sister when she was 19 and got pregnant and my parents disowned her. And, from there to just whatever I could do to help somebody else, I figure I could just get to me later, like a lot of women do.
Yeah.
And I remember one time distinctly, I thought that I had fully forgiven my dad for abuse in my life. And I remember I had a boss once, a lawyer he's not the typical lawyer. He was actually kind of strange, very spiritual. And he ended up saying, I was with him and another friend. We had gone out, and he's like, we were talking about trauma and all that. And he goes, "Do you forgive your dad?" And I said, "Absolutely, I forgive my dad." Shaking my head,
Like this.
no. And then saying, "Yes, I forgive
Yeah,
him."
absolutely.
That was about age 23. And
Wow.
that was the turning point when I completely delved into personal development, therapy, and then coaches, and even just taking Lisa Nichols on walks with me,
Wow.
to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have those mentors. Mentors show up
Mhm.
in the oddest ways.
They do. They
We
do.
don't know who they are. When we come back, we're going to talk about those pivotal mentors and what they mean.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about the fact that you may not think you have one. You may be thinking, I don't have Lisa. I don't
Right.
have, but
Sean or
here's what you
Michelle or
do.
any of these people.
I don't have any of them. But if you plug in and just listen to a Lisa Nichols tape,
Mhm.
or you just listen to, Martine, or you take this podcast and you remind yourself that you are worth getting somebody to work with.
Oh, you
And I want to
are.
just say
You
this: when
are.
we come back, we're going to tackle this age old myth about coaching and the idea of I can't afford it.
Oh,
We're going to take
yes.
that on. That was my story.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was your story, but that was
Yes.
my story for a long time. And I got a talking to by somebody. And
Mhm.
when we come back, I will tell you what that talking to was like. It was the scariest moment in the 17 years I was ever doing this show. And I've interviewed a lot of
Mm.
scary people,
Yeah,
people that really,
I
I was
bet you
just like,
have.
I'm like Olivia Newton-John dropped 3 times in an interview. But this moment, face to face, and the talking I got from this woman, I
Mm.
never forgot.
I can't wait to hear more.
I never forgot. But let's talk about that. What would have been the scariest moments where your mentors stood up and said, Martine,
Mm.
you better dot, dot, dot.
Yeah,
We're going to take
gotcha.
a short break. When we come back, Martine is going to talk about how you cultivate transformation, how you start from yourself, and how you then weave that beautiful web to get you from where you are today to where you want to go. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, with my guest, Dr. Pat, owner and founder of Transformational Talk Radio. We left talking about who like our mentors were, and people that kind of knocked us on our butt and said, "Hey, you've got to do something."
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about now, of who those people were that said, "Hey, you've got to do something. Otherwise, your life is just going to stay right there."
And some of these lessons are really simple.
They are.
I mean, simple and powerful. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, honestly, I mentioned Linda's mom a little bit ago, Joan.
Yeah. Yes.
And I talked about her mom and dad, and I could spend 5 hours talking about what I learned from her mom and her dad,
Right. Right.
including her dad teaching me how to cut a quarter round on a, on a table saw. How
Oh my
scary is
gosh.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're small things. I
Mm-hmm.
was broken as a kid. When I met Linda and her parents, we
Mm-hmm.
worked together at the phone company, and I
Yeah.
came over for her house for dinner or something, or sleigh riding, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and into a part of town that I did not really to.
Mm-hmm.
I came from the Plainfield, New Jersey side of town to the Greenbrook Watchung side of town.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different high schools, totally different places, totally different, SES
Yeah.
status.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into Joan, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. And I walked into Linda's house, and Joan is the first person I remember. I don't know if there were other people there, but I
Mm-hmm.
walked in. My head was, this is the way I walked around, Martine.
Mm-hmm. I
I walked
relate.
around like this
Mm-hmm.
because this
Mm-hmm.
is the way I felt about myself.
Ah, I
And
bet you.
I walked in, and Joan says hi. and I'm like this, and I said hi, and she stopped me. And she said
Mm.
something to the effect, with these piercing blue eyes,
Yeah.
something to the effect, if you come in my house, you're going to look me in the eye,
Oh,
or
yeah.
you're not going to be in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I lifted my head up and I looked into those piercing blue eyes, and I will
Mm.
never forget those welcoming, beautiful sea blue eyes. I
Right.
never walked with my head down again.
Oh, I love
I'm
that.
23.
Right.
That took 30 seconds for her to say that.
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to. Who
Right.
the hell am I? I'm a nobody. I'm somebody that worked with her daughter. She had probably never heard of me, but cared enough about me to say that.
Yes,
And
that's so
I learned
beautiful.
how to receive it. How about you? You
Mm.
got any Jones in your life?
What comes to my mind, and I haven't thought about this in years. I want to say, uh, I want to say a freshman in high school, but it's not. It was a senior in high school. And this wonderful, beautiful angel named Shelley. I had been through so much stuff in bullying and everything in high school. And I remember her taking me under her wing somehow. And I don't even know how it developed, just being in government class and sitting next to me and
Yeah.
spending time with me.
Yeah.
And I remember her taking me to her therapist. And I remember asking my parents, can I have this? I need this for a variety of reasons, one of them being bulimic at the time. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know what to do. And my parents are like, I'm so stupid. No, we're not going to do that. Um, and I remember her taking me, and I remember the therapist spending time with me anyway, telling me I'm worth it. It didn't quite sink in, but I know there was a little bit of a lift. My head may not have come up completely, but a little bit. That somebody cared enough to spend time with me, even though my parents didn't believe it was worth it. She thought I was. And
Mm.
I haven't thought of that in years. I've never forget her. I will never forget her
We
for,
don't forget.
oh gosh, no. It's
We do.
like
And you,
that Maya Angelou. I'm sorry, that Maya
my,
Angelou. Remember?
yeah, yeah.
You will never forget what people do for you, even if you forget um, a
Who they
name or
are.
something. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't forget what they do for you.
But you see, here
Mhm.
we are. We're talking about our life's
Yeah.
journey. You know, you are Transformation with Martine. I own the
Hmm.
Transformation Network, Transformation
Yes.
Talk Radio, soon to be
Yes.
launching Cosmos Talk Radio, Psychic Talk
Ah,
Radio, God Talk Radio,
so
Women's
good.
Chat Radio, you know,
Hmm.
and it goes on. And this is right around the corner for us. And
You're a rock
that's
star.
why I started to talk about Jessica a little bit,
Hmm.
was because we now need to do a whole new level of acknowledgement and training for our producers.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have to know, if you pull a cable, if I pull all the cables out of all the spots, can you put them back together?
Right.
And Jessica and I talked about that. And what we realized is we learned this through the Joan method.
Hmm.
That that Joan firing method. It doesn't mean you're not kind to people,
Yeah.
but you must be disciplined. And
Hmm.
I feel strange talking about discipline, because the people that know me, they know me as a rebel. Glenda and I were talking
Hmm.
about this morning. I did something upon losing my job after 24 and a half years in the Bell system
Hmm.
that people were still talking about. They didn't know my name,
Hmm.
but we are also rebels.
Hmm. We
Aren't you a
are.
rebel?
Oh, yeah.
Tell
Oh,
me about
yeah.
your rebel side. Come on.
Oh,
Come on.
there's a part of me that I was known as just this shy person, but the
Me
more that I
too.
dive, the more I dive into transformation, the more feistiness I get. And I'm always reminded of my mom being at a restaurant one time, and this waitress was particularly rude. Boy, she got up and she's like, oh no, no one's going to talk to me like that. And that's something that's always stood in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, we need to stand up for ourselves. We
Yeah.
need to take charge of our lives. We need someone to believe in us for a while, before we can do it. But I've had that. I've had that fuel, that tribe, that community of people boosting me up to show me that I can do this. And that's what I want to be for people now.
And you know what I
Take
love
them.
about listening to you? You are doing it at a time in your life where you have a lifetime to help people. I
Mhm.
am what you call a late bloomer. And my my spiritual mentor, Sedonia Cato, would say, honey, you're a slow learner. But when I learn, I learn.
Right.
And so we're talking about these people. But Martin, can I ask you something?
Mhm.
You mentioned a number of your coaches. I have a
Mhm.
bunch of coaches.
Right.
But here's something that we have to talk about and ask our audience about.
Mhm.
Are you willing to take and accept the feedback? Are you willing
Mm.
to have people like Joan, and then maybe I'll share Shirley MacLaine later, but
That'd be
are we
good.
willing to really be in the face of those people, Martine, that say,
Mm.
Martine, oh, listen, honey, you got to do dot, dot, dot. And let's talk about how you learn
Ah.
that. Because if you're me and you're me in my 20s, you're like, I can't use the language here that I used in my 20s, right?
Mhm. Right.
That's not something that I'm going to use, but I will tell you, it wasn't that I didn't hear it.
Mhm.
I would never let on that I learned it. When did you make
Mm.
that adjustment for yourself to say, wait a minute, I am going to listen to you, Lisa?
Mhm. Well, I think I realized that unless I listen, I am not going anywhere. And I think it's sitting back and looking at my dad, other people in my life that are like, oh, if only I had done that. So yeah, I know not everybody's going to love me. Not everyone's going to love you, right? Not everyone's going to love us. But the people that you and I are to serve, they are going to love us. It's like I know right now if I can touch one person today, I'm doing something right. And I know you feel the same way too. If you can do something for
Oh,
one person, if somebody could hear me today that there's hope, that's all I care about. And if other people come at me and say, yeah, you're full of garbage, okay,
it's
it doesn't feel
interesting.
good, but it's okay.
It's
It's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, I love when people don't agree with me because it gives me a
Mhm.
moment to reflect on what I really believe in. And I've
Right,
been able
right.
to shift and change. I had a caller
Hmm.
in my show the other day. Megan Edge and I did a show pretty
Hmm.
much on the edge. We're probably not
Uh-huh.
going to be able to air it on YouTube, but it is on our website, Transformation Talk Radio,
Right.
because we were talking about censorship and we were
Mhm.
talking about the what's happening in the world. And we
Right.
got a fantastic caller, one of our regular Charlene callers
Hmm.
from Calgary. I think it's
Oh,
Calgary. I hope I
wow.
get it
Okay.
right.
Hmm.
Who
Hmm.
called in, and within about a 90-second period, she schooled both of us in a kind and gentle way
Huh.
about why we need certain levels of censorship because
Hmm.
lies are not good. I mean, in a live show, she reminded us of the core essence of integrity,
Hmm. Hmm.
which we weren't talking about. But if we're not going to be open to that, Martine, then where do we
Hmm.
go from there? Tell me.
Right. Right. We have to be. The feedback is everything. That's something we talk about quite a bit. That as my one of my mentors, Sean Smith, says, it's like to hear no or to hear someone say something bad. It's really just a noise, right? It's just a noise. And it also brings us back to, like you said, integrity. Am I in alignment with my values in what I'm sharing and what I'm doing? And if something really bothers me, that might still be something I need to work on in me. So there's a sacred teacher for me.
Well, let's talk about
Yeah.
it. Talk about how something like that will build resilience because we don't connect the dots. And I
Mm,
would love for you to talk about how those events in your life have connected the dots to really bring the Martinet to the forefront that one said yes to do a live show that goes across 100 networks, two to be out in the world and share your personal story, because
right.
that's not for the lighthearted. So
No,
talk to how these bits and pieces build up the resilience we need to be the truth of who we are.
absolutely. We'll do that now or after our break, Dr. Pat. What do you think?
I don't know, Olivia, should we skip the break? Let's skip the break because we're
Okay.
on a roll. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Transformation with Martine, and you're going to hear a lot more from Martine. But before we get rolling again, you have a coaching platform. You work with others. Everything
I
we're
do.
talking about today, you
I
are
do.
helping others get through. How do they
Yes.
work with you? What is the best way to contact you?
They can get to me through my website, which is www.martineemmons.com, MartineEmmons.com. And you can also send me an email at martine@martineemmons.com.
Or
Yep.
Martine or Martine, if people like we were saying
Yes.
it wrong for like Martine. And then Jessica says, nope, you ain't saying it right. And I said, well, it wouldn't be the first time in
Oh,
my
no,
career.
either one is absolutely fine with me. Martine is my birth
I love
certificate name,
Martine.
but I go with either one.
I
Yeah.
love Martine. I
It
love
sounds
it.
French, doesn't it?
I
Like it's
know.
just got a little.
My name's Pat.
I think it's just perfect. It's perfect. So what were we talking about, Pat? Resilience, right?
I'll tell you
Remember
what
that?
we're talking about. This
Okay.
is really super important. I'm begging our listening audience.
Mm,
I'm begging all of you. There's something you're going to hear today, and you're going to think that's for them. That's not for me. What I want to say to you is I had to follow breadcrumbs. I mean, you guys see me
mm,
here and you see me do the show and you see me do the, the psychic and the doc show on Thursday, and you just see me a
mm,
lot. But I will tell you, it is not the entire loaf of bread that got me here. It was the teeny breadcrumbs that I could absorb because that's all I could, that is, was
mhm,
it. That was all I could take in at different parts of my life.
mhm, mhm,
And Martine, if people hear something today, whether they say, who's Lisa Nichols? And
mhm,
they want to get whatever you said, you take Lisa on a walk with you. I think you're talking about
mhm.
listening to
Yeah.
her, right? Is that
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Audible.
Yeah. Okay. Do it. Do it.
Mhm.
5 minutes, 10 minutes. What
Yep.
would you say is the most important tool you have that keeps you at the top of your game?
Connection. Connections. I start every day with a walk. It's a habit that is hasn't gone away since I started raising children, and that was quite a few years ago. My oldest is 22. I go for a walk, and I always take an Audible book with me or something, whether it's Lisa Nichols or a podcast that one of my other mentors is doing, like you. Any of those, anything that will boost me up and bring me to a place of peace and being outside in nature to me helps everything. And then connecting with a community of
Mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
that are like minded,
Yeah.
that will boost me up, that I can boost up, that it's the hope. It's the hope. We all need that hope, no matter what is going on in our life. Some days, are picture perfect, right? And then there
They
are
are.
days where, yeah. And
And
then there are
other
days,
days, and there are other days like you and I were talking about today. We didn't share
mhm,
about today,
yeah,
but you and I were talking about, and then there are days that I cannot put three screws in a weed trimmer for whatever reason that is. And then I got to call Linda to get, but those are those
yeah.
days. Probably what it means to me is my cup is overfilled. I should have never
Mm,
started that project. But what does that mean for
mhm.
you? When do you have those moments where you say, oh, wait, I got to pull back?
It depends on the day. Right now, I've been through a lot. There's been a lot of loss in my life, but today it's navigating my dad. I feel like raising three children is a piece of cake compared to helping an aging parent. My mom was easier too, even with dementia. But my dad, it's like every day, I'm just not really sure what's going to happen. So I tune into my community, I tune into my coaches, and I get outside and I walk. I do whatever I need to nurture myself. And as we're talking, like our plate can be full of stuff. We also have to keep our cup full for us. Otherwise, we are not good to anyone. And I've learned that. That's one of the things I learned through Lisa and Sean and Michelle, that it is keeping our own cup full so that we can serve others and to get through the things that we are in. And everything we go through, we build those resiliency muscles. We build the strength in our calves from all the squats we've had to do from getting back up, right? We've been on the floor a few times. We've had to get back up, and we build those muscles by getting back up.
So interesting. I think I shared with you that I moved into a new place, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And when people move, I think, I'm not the only one that moved. I got a couple of team members and people I know that
Right.
moved.
Mm-hmm.
But when people move, you just expect to pack up and move. And you're
Right.
like moved. And other people around you expect to move. But
Yeah.
this was different for me. I didn't expect to move. I was
Mhm.
very unexpected.
Right.
And I looked at the way the divine lined things up. Like this, my new home happened because of a very unexpected odds of the people that were here moving out would have been 5 million to 1.
Wow.
But something happened in the relationship, and this home belongs to one of our hosts.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know. And so, I had to move very quickly. I had to move, but the universe knew I needed to expand in the way that we're expanding the network, that I couldn't. So
Mm-hmm.
people around me are like, are you still digging yourself out of boxes? And I'm like, yeah, because it's not about that. And I want to ask you this question. It's
Mm-hmm.
about a fresh start,
Oh
a
yes.
fresh start. And I think it's
Absolutely.
important to keep that in our forefront. Tell us about
Mm-hmm.
how many times you've had to say to yourself, I'm having a fresh start moment.
So many times I can't even tell you. But that's kind of the exciting part when you think of that. It's kind of overwhelming, like, oh boy, here we go again. But it's also beautiful. It's really, really good. I remember, and it wasn't an easy thing for my children, but I knew it was right. After my marriage broke up 3 years later, I met my now husband, and we moved all the way from California to Michigan. That was scary. I left my family, my children left their friends, and it was a very tumultuous time. Yet it turned out to be a beautiful blessing in so many ways. And sometimes sometimes we have a fresh start because we want one, and sometimes we are forced into it. And no matter which way it is, there's always something beautiful in it. And when you're kind of working your way through it, you realize, oh, okay, now I know why that happened. Oh, okay, now I know why that happened. And now I see how much stronger I am. And when another thing comes on or comes up, I've got this. Okay, I've got evidence that I worked through it here. I'll be able to work through it there. So that's part of it for me. Like there's always lessons in the in the fresh start, even, right? Whether we want it or we don't. Do you think?
I believe that. I have a
Mhm.
friend who taught me about indigenous ways. I have two friends. I have a
Mm,
mentor, Sidonia Cahill, who passed away
mm.
um, in 1999 on a trip, an accident on a trip that I was actually supposed to be on
Oh,
um,
wow.
in Morocco with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't because I was at a really pivotal point in my research. It
Mm-hmm.
was the only reason I didn't go. And
Right.
when I think about her and what she taught me and those ways and honoring the earth and honoring the sunrise and honoring sacred circle,
Right.
and those minutes that you learn about a spiritual level of integrity that
Mm-hmm.
is so street smart that anybody can do it. Anyone can sage, anyone can build a circle,
Right.
anyone can do that. But what it really takes is your heart
Mm-hmm.
to stay open.
Yeah,
Now, that
I agree.
is a lifelong lesson for somebody like me. How about you?
Hmm. Oh, yes, absolutely. Keeping your heart open to whatever comes up next and trusting in God or the universe, however you as an individual look at it, that the right thing is being set up, the right
Yeah.
thing for us
Yeah.
so that we can fulfill our purpose, the reason why we are here on this earth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you said yes to this.
Hmm.
There are elements of this that surely you questioned in your own mind. I
Oh
said
yes.
yes to this 17 years ago, and no one
Yes.
around me really supported it. I think
Hmm.
Linda was there, but
Hmm.
everybody else was, we don't get you, man. You could get a job anywhere with your credentials. And they went
Hmm.
on and on. You're paying how many thousands a month for airtime to
Right.
do a show called Crust Busting Your Way to an Awesome Life. This was before it was Dr. Pat show.
Gotcha.
And I tried to explain it until Jack Canfield, one of my guests early
Hmm.
on,
Wonderful.
I was so naive about this. I was so ignorant that I didn't know I wasn't supposed to ask people like Canfield. But he said something to me really interesting. And I never really forgot his
Hmm.
story of almost failure and rejection by a
Hmm.
publisher.
Right.
And he talked to the fact that when your heart leads the way, you have to make sure your mind stays in the trunk.
Mhm.
Now, that's a visual. What
Yes, it
is your
is.
message for today for folks, Martine? And congratulations to you. I know Olivia is excited as well. Congratulations to you on your giant yes, but more important, on the me that's in you that is showing up for the rest of us. What's your message today?
Mm, I want so much for our listeners to know that there is hope, that you can overcome everything and compromise nothing. You truly, truly can. I am proof of that. I am proof that if you just trust, take action every day, you can get there. And this has been a dream of mine for a while. I think, Dr. Pat, I think I told you a while ago that I did have a radio show about definitely showing me, well, how long. It's been like 15 years that I actually had another radio program before when I was a health coach. And I have been wanting to get back ever since. And finding you has been a tremendous blessing because you and I think a lot alike. And what you're doing is a beautiful thing in the world. And I want to do a beautiful thing in the world myself. I want to serve women. I want to help women that have been in a place that I've been in,
Yeah.
which is just a place of stuckness, of
Yeah.
knowing that I wanted to do something more, but I'm like, how do I do this? And how can little me actually move forward and
Exactly.
do this? Well, if I can, you can. Trust me.
Yeah.
Oh, you can.
And I love what you said. The statistics are going to come out shortly
Mhm.
of the abuse rate that
Yeah.
has gone on in during
Mhm.
this pandemic for
Oh,
women and
no
for
doubt about
children,
it.
and yes, some
Mhm.
men.
Yes.
But the abuse rate for women and children, especially those that have come to this country from another country,
Right.
when those numbers come out, people like you and me are going to have to do something.
Mhm. Mhm. And we will.
We
We
really
will.
will.
Yep.
Martine, how do people find out more about you? And thank you so much for being you.
Mm, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we found each other.
Me too.
Yeah. My website again is www.martineemmons.com. MartineEmmons.com. There's places to book a coaching call with me um, and reach out even by email, which is Martine@martineemmons.com as well. And look for me on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm happy, so happy to connect with you.
We're gonna
Yay,
have to
this is
send.
so good.
We're gonna have to send. We're gonna have to send Lisa Nichols that little clip from here today. Thank you so
She's a
much,
mentor.
Martine.
She's
Olivia,
wonderful.
thank you for pushing all the right buttons.
Yes,
And
Olivia, thank you.
I want to give just a giant hug for all of you out there, every single one of you out there that is
Yes.
saying yes to your greater good in life, right,
Hmm.
Martine?
Absolutely. Say yes to you because you deserve the absolute best.
Wow.
This is
Thank
good.
you, everyone. Martine will be back. You've got another hour coming up on Transformation Talk Radio. So
Yes.
stay tuned, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.